Hello, Aldwyn Altuney here. Welcome to Media Queen TV. We have the amazing Justine Martin with us today, and we have a hot topic which I know you're going to love. It is how to have a resilient mindset. Now, before we chat with Justine, a little bit about her and her journey. Now, talking about resilience, this actually means having the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and to show toughness. The definition has been the cornerstone of Justine's extraordinary journey over the last decade, a journey no one could fathom. But in Justine's words, this journey has changed her for the better. She uses her learned experiences of overcoming adversities to help others gain their own resilience. In 2011, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and underwent 3 heart surgeries. Then having 3 primary cancers at once. She was told she would never work again by a medical professional, but that was never an option for her. She actually catapulted herself then into the world of business. Not only changed her life, but this actually gave it purpose and direction and inspired those around her with her story. After learning how to paint and use art as therapy, she has become a multi-award winning artist and found the strength and determination to take control of her financial future. She now owns and runs 4 businesses: Just Art, Juzt Art, Resilience Mindset, Van Gogh Decals, and Morpheus Publishing, all being under the umbrella of Justine Martin Corporation. In 2021, she was nominated for 16 National Business Awards and won 7 in various categories such as Coach of the Year and Creative Artist of the Year. She's a resilience consultant and speaker, multi-award-winning professional artist, teacher, Amazon bestselling author, publisher, volunteer, mum of 2, grandmother of 6, and she's known as the Queen of Resilience. Wow, welcome to the show, Justine.
Thanks for having me on. I didn't realize how big the bio was until you read it all out.
Massive. I'm amazed at what you've done, and particularly some of the struggles you've been through. But before we get to some of those struggles, I'd love to know a bit about your childhood and what that was like for you growing up.
I thought I had a normal childhood, as you know, most of us do when we're growing up, but we actually had a really difficult childhood. It wasn't the normality, it was the normality for us, but my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1974, so I was about 3.5. Then she got MS in 1981. She was 33 when she got MS herself, and then she got cervical cancer at 40 and lung cancer at 49, and she passed away at the age of 49 from complications from MS. So we went to live with my grandparents about 3 times when we were children, up until about the age of 11, and that was difficult. You know, they did the best they could under the circumstances that they had, but looking back on it now, child services may have been called in at one particular stage. So it wasn't a normal what is normal, but it wasn't a normal childhood. My parents had divorced when I was around about 9 as well, so we had no contact, or very little contact with my father, and moved schools. I can't even count how many times we actually moved schools. But unbeknownst to me, everything that happened in my childhood, I was actually gaining resilience at that particular point. So, you know, we start gaining resilience at a very, very young age. Actually, from the day that we're born, we start gaining resilience. It's inherited, but it's also a learned thing as well. So, you know, my childhood was full of, you know, ups and downs, and my teenage years, I immersed myself in music and wanted to be a classical composer and conductor, actually, when I left high school, and wrote my first symphony at 15, and went away to study music. But unfortunately, Mum became too sick, and I had to give all that up and go home and become her primary carer. So always thought I'd go back to music, but never got back into that form of art. But definitely now I'm immersed in art everywhere.
Amazing. Yes, creativity is a wonderful thing to do, particularly for anyone watching this who may have had depression. I've actually had depression myself, and I know whenever I get creative, I always feel so much better about myself. And it could be something as simple as even cooking, creating something fantastic to eat, or doing some artwork or poetry or whatever creativity is
Writing.
for you. Writing, yes,
Yeah.
poetry is a great one as well. So what forms of art do you do now?
Oh, what don't I do now? I paint, I draw, I sculpt, I write, uh, I do the odd bit of gardening. That's creating. Yeah, so lots of different things. I'm always creating something, creating a new business idea. Because I do have enough businesses now. Yeah,
Yes.
creating everything. I do lots of commission pieces for people. My artwork gets turned into large decals for caravans and camper vans. So my hobby has turned into a major business, and it doesn't feel like work because it's something that I love to do, and I'm always creating each and every day.
Amazing. And I'm blown away by some of these health challenges you've had. 2011, multiple sclerosis, 3 heart surgeries, and 3 primary cancers all at once. Can you describe a bit about what happened then for you, and how was that? How did you get through all that?
Well, it was 2010 that I actually became ill with the MS, and my vision was like wearing a pair of glasses, and someone had actually smeared Vaseline over my eyes, and went off to the neurologist, and it took about 6 months for them to diagnose me with MS. And I kept asking, is this MS? And everyone kept saying, no, 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 it's just your migraines, because I'm also a migraine sufferer. And yeah, and then when I was diagnosed, I was totally blown away. My whole world just shattered around me. I knew the life that I had been living was never going to be the same. I knew what this disease had done to my mum, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And then when the neurologist turned around and said to me, oh, you're not going to ever be able to work again, you've better find a hobby because you're going to have a lot of time on your hands. I then questioned what my purpose in life was going to be. If I couldn't pay tax, if I couldn't contribute to a society in that way, and I solely became reliant on another person to put a roof over my head and put, food in my mouth and my children's mouths, what use and was I going to be? Was I felt like I was going to be a burden to society, and it was a really, really dark time. So then, finding that hobby, learning how to paint. And I just started off with the University of YouTube, which I always fall back to. I tell everyone, go on the University of YouTube. And then went off to painting classes. But, going off to painting classes sounds so easy now, but it wasn't. Aldwyn, I was petrified of walking in through that art studio door with anxiety. And I'd go home every week crying because I couldn't walk in. I couldn't get out of the car and walk inside. And then when I finally, after 4 months of driving there, plucked up enough courage to walk in, my world changed. And I took to it like a duck to water, and I would lose myself in the creativity of it all. And the teacher turned around and said to me, oh, you don't really need much help. And I'm like, oh, God, I've just, put so much pressure on myself for the last 4 months trying to get here. And now you're telling me I don't really need to be here. So I continued with that. And then we moved over from Western Australia to here, being Victoria, and didn't know anyone. And again, that was, facing a major, adversity. My partner was working still in WA in the mines, and I was at home all day looking at 4 walls. And I'm such a social creature that it was killing me. We're not meant to be at home and alone and without human contact. And I think a lot of people experienced that through COVID as well, that normally they would be out of the house, but all of a sudden, they're stuck in four walls. And although it's your sanctuary, it also becomes your jail. And so I tried to get into more art groups and meet more people and push myself to that. And then my health deteriorated with in 2013, 14 and 15 having heart surgeries, and that stopped me weight training, and because I compete in weightlifting and strongman events as well, which is not in the bio.
Wow.
And I had to pull back and on all of that. But I had a dream and a goal and a vision of what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to give back to society and run art wellness classes for other people with disabilities. And the day that I got the keys to my house, which I bought, that I thought, I can turn this into a great studio and gallery and everything, was the day that I found out that I could have cancer. So again,
Wow.
a major adversity facing there. And I've just always broken everything down into steps. It's like, okay, we'll get through this step. We'll get through this little bit. And, then we'll go on, because life is full of adversities. You can't get through life without an adversity. And there's hundreds of different types. There's illness, death, relationship breakups, loss of jobs, moving, being evicted, the list goes, car accidents, the list goes on the adversities that you can face. And it's how you cope and how quickly you bounce back from that adversity. And I never lost sight, all the way through the cancer journey, that I was going to open up the studio one day, and I kept renovating even through it all. So that gave me some hope. That gave me something to look forward to. And I think that's one of the main keys with resilience and looking at the adversity, is that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. It might be just a pinprick to start with, but there will be light there, and you just keep focusing on that light. Just keep focusing, moving forward, not looking backwards all the time. Because if I sat and looked backwards and stayed looking backwards, I'd be a blubbering mess. Even I sit back some days and go, wow, I've been through a lot of shit. There's no other way to put it. So, and then, the cancer journey. So, I had melanoma, lymphoma, and leukemia all at the same time. But I also had another skin condition called lividio reticularis, where I was going purple like a zombie. My kids thought I was out of the Walking Dead. And I also had another blood condition called mixed cryoglobulinemia. And so by the time they diagnosed everything, I was stage 4, and life was looking pretty bleak. It was terrifying. But I never thought I was going to die. Never thought I was going to die. I actually didn't know that I was stage 4 until about 8 months later, when I had to go on a trip, and the doctor had to write a letter in case something happened when I was away. And it was written in this letter, and, you open it up, what the doctor says. And I'm like, oh my God. I had no idea whatsoever. No one mentioned that. So I think that helped with, my mindset as well. It's just, I always saw the cancer not as cancer, but just bad cells in my body that I would get my juice each month, and that was killing the bad cells off. And then got through that, and I'd been in remission about 18 months before I opened up the studio for the art wellness classes. And, they've been going now for about 2.5 years, and they're fantastic, helping other people face the adversities that they are through art and seeing other people shine.
Wow, phenomenal. And what sort of treatments did you have for the cancer, and were you on a lot of tablets after the heart surgeries? Like, what was that like after that? Did you do natural treatments?
So the heart surgeries I had, the first one, I had a pulmonary vein ablation, and they said to me, there was no pills. There were pills leading up to it. I was on warfarin and beta blockers, but the beta blockers didn't work. So that's why I had to go through with the surgery. And I was told that if it didn't come back in 12 weeks, it would be gone. and it came back just over 11 weeks after the first one. And it was a big operation. It was about 7.5, 8 hours, the first operation, and then to be told, oh, you're going to have it again. My resting heart rate was 217 beats a minute, so the average person's about 65, 68 beats, I think, per minute, and mine was sitting at 217. So then I had to go back and have another ablation done, where they spot welder around the pulmonary vein in your heart and puncture a hole into it, and spot welder around the inside of it. So then went back, had the second one, and I went back to weightlifting about a week after the first one, because I didn't have open heart. It went up through the groin. And then the second one, they told me I had to wait a month. I wasn't allowed to go back quite so soon, that was hard, because that's my happy place, is to go and lift up heavy things and throw them on the ground. And then the third one was because I was missing 1 in every 5 heartbeats. But I was awake for that operation. So that one was really daunting. And that was 4.5 hours of being awake, having them weld the inside of my heart, cauterize the front wall of the heart. And from that, I got pericarditis. So I was really sick after that. And they actually called the family, and that's how sick I was after that one. And, when you face your mortality, when you're knocking on the door, so to speak, it does make you stop and address everything in life, and what you're actually then capable of doing. When you get through that, you kind of nearly feel superhuman. It's like, okay, well, now what I want to do, I've got a bucket list, there's goals that I want to achieve, let's go for it. And to me, that time is the most precious commodity. You can't buy it, sell it, reuse it, borrow it, or give it away. Well, you can give it away. So, be careful on who you spend it on and what you spend it on. And that was the one thing that I think I learned out of, everything that I've faced. And that's why I get so much done and I do so much, is because I don't procrastinate. Very rarely do I procrastinate. Most people have an idea about something and then they'll sit on it forever. I'll get around to that one day. I'll get around to that. Whereas I'm like, oh, I've got an idea. Let's put that into place. What I have to do, I break it down into goals and I start working towards it. And it might take me 2 years or 3 years to actually achieve it in the end, but I'm working towards it the whole time, rather than in 3 years' time, oh, geez, I wish I'd had that, gone through with that idea, or someone else has gone ahead and jumped in for it. So, yeah, procrastination doesn't really fall in my vocabulary anymore. With the cancers, I had to stop the MS drugs that I was on and do a chemical flush through that. So it wasn't a simple case of, oh, you're starting chemo tomorrow. There was a lot of prep, getting my body detox from the disease-modifying therapy drugs to then start on chemo. And it was going to go wrong. Unfortunately, it nearly always goes wrong with me. And had my first round of chemo and ended up with a chemical blister rash from head to toe from the chemo. So the chemo I was on called bendamustine, which is a derivative of the mustard gas from World War One. So scary stuff. Like, this is potent stuff that they give you. And then they gave me another product called rituximab, which is an immunosuppressant, and that actually tripled my levels of cryoglobulinemia, and I ended up with another rash. So I had the purple, the video rash, the blister rash, and then this cryo rash from head to toe. And once they got the levels right and then gave me steroids on every infusion, then things settled down, and I did 6 months of bendamustine and I did 18 months of rituximab, and I'm still on treatment. So I do a weekly infusion at home now of other people's antibodies. So it's SCIG therapy, and it's because I have no immune system. Limited B cells, limited T cells. I'm borderline neutropenic and I'm lymphopenic all the time. So if someone sneezes near me, I'll get a cold. And that cold can then lead to pneumonia, and obviously then I'm in major trouble. So, it's not so much on what pills and that can I take. It's it's the bigger picture on what you guys have all been through with COVID in trying to avoid getting COVID, masking up and washing hands and not being around sick people. And that is exactly the way that I've been living my life now for a long time. So there wasn't a big adjustment for me when COVID hit. There's always been hand sanitizer at the front door and masks at the front door. And my friends and family know that if they're ill, they can't come near me. So, they respect me enough that they don't do that. So, yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know how you've done it still, Justine. You've shared all that. I'm just like, wow, so many people would have just crumbled with those conditions. And yet, you have made it through, and you've made it through stronger, it seems, than you were before even. I'm blown away by how much you achieve and how ambitious you are and how much of an action taker you are. We actually met, for those who don't know, we met on my webinar. You came along to my How to Gain Free Publicity webinar, and you've been a powerhouse since then, and you've been featured on so many different media channels, and you've got your own show now. And, you just went straight out and took action after seeing the free webinar. Phenomenal. And, I really take my hat off to you. I love that. I love hearing, success stories of people who actually go out and take action. And that's something I've definitely noticed with you, is that you are a massive action taker, and you do
no procrastination. Take procrastination out of your vocabulary and you'll be amazed on what you can get done. We spend more time procrastinating about doing a task than actually how long the task would take us to do.
Yeah.
And so if you just get in and do it, and the ones that you really don't want to do, just do them first. Just get in and do them.
So true.
And quite often we make this big mountain out of a little pothole. Just get in and do it. Cross it off the list. True. I have a big blackboard beside me. Oh, it's a glass board, but it's black. And I write on it constantly everything that needs to be done. And, I carry a book around with me all the time with my A lists and my B lists. And every night I'm updating them and crossing things off. I love crossing lists off. Hey, I've achieved that one. And then I go and reward myself, but I never reward myself with food anymore because I used to be morbidly obese. So no food rewards for Juzzy, but there's plenty of other things that you can reward yourself with, like a bubble bath, and that all falls under self-care. So I developed the 10 top tips to resilience, and I've got a downloadable pack that people can purchase for $27, and we go through all the things on how to build resilience, because some people don't realize that they've actually got resilience. I mean, we've all got resilience. We all learn how to crawl, and we all learn how to walk, and we needed resilience to get through that.
True.
No one told us that we couldn't. And it's not until you're a child that you're told, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And my mum always used to say to me, there's no such word as can't. And so nowadays it's like I say yes and then work out how. Often on the University of YouTube. But I say yes and then, okay, yeah, I can do that. It's going to take me a little bit longer, but this is my deadline. This is my date, and then I work out how. And if that means that I have to outsource some things or go and learn something, get someone in to teach me how to do something. Like I'm about to go do illustrating via digital art, and I've had a little bit of a play with it, and I know my way around a little bit on that app, but I'm not overly confident in it. And I know to step up my illustration business and to make things faster and more streamlined, I need to know how to do digital art. And so Monday I've got a lesson happening on how to do, more things with the digital art that I've been doing. So, I'm never afraid to ask for help, because that's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And I learned that when, I have cognitive issues from the MS. I have an acquired brain injury from it, but I'm not using that as an excuse still not to achieve things in life. And I haven't used my disabilities as an excuse as to why I can't do things. It's like, okay, well, there's, we live in Australia, and we're in such, an amazing country that, we have NDIS for people with disabilities, and, that we can get help, support workers to come in and help us do things. And, be careful on what you manifest is what I tell people, because all I ever wanted was a gardener and a cleaner, and then I would have made it in life. Like, to me, growing up, it was only the rich people that had gardeners and cleaners and all of that. Well, now I have both, and I've had both for, I think, about the last 8 years, but NDIS pay for that, and I had to become disabled in order to get it. So when you manifest something, be really, really specific on what you want. I should have manifested that I wanted enough money in my bank, my own money in my bank, to pay for those. So
Right.
be really careful on what you're manifesting in your lives. Get very specific.
Yes, great tip. And often underneath physical ailments is often some emotional stuff. And I can imagine it would have been very traumatic for you to lose your mother at 49. I'm 48 now, so that means your mum was 1 year older than me, about my age, and I feel like I'm just getting started in life. So I can imagine that would have been incredibly difficult for you. How old were you when your mum passed?
I was 26 with a 7-week-old baby and a
Wow.
4-year-old son.
Wow.
I was actually asleep on the waiting room floor at Auburn Hospital when she passed away, in a room with 3 other people. She wasn't even in palliative. It was horrific, absolutely horrific. My brother was on the toilet. I was asleep on the floor with a 7-week-old baby, and literally lying on the floor. And it was hard, but we lost mum years before that. So the MS had really affected her cognitively. She couldn't talk. She was tube fed. She couldn't walk. Yeah, so, we lost our mum a decade before she actually passed away. She had very little quality of life left when she died. So it was hard. I had postnatal depression and full-blown depression at the time, and my weight skyrocketed to 125 kilos. And I used, my weight as a shell, as a buffer from everything that was happening. I was in a marriage that was failing. I didn't want to be there, and it was a really, really dark time in my life. And I look at where I am now and what I've achieved, and I am nowhere near that girl that when mum died. And I do believe that she did pass away so we could get on with our lives as well. And she'd lost the will to live. But that prompted me then to, when voluntary assisted dying was a hot topic, that I've run for Parliament twice, once in Western Australia for the Senate, and also in Victoria for the House of Representatives, so one in 2010 and one in 2013. So I'm a big believer that, don't sit and whinge and bitch that you don't like something. If you don't like something in the government, run for it. You can run as an independent. If you don't like something in your local community, get out there and help fix it. Don't add to the problem. Stand up for what you believe in. There's something that you don't like. Well, we live in a great country, again, that we do have the opportunity that we can, go forth. Volunteer your services to an organisation. And that will help as well. So, voluntary assisted dying I'm very passionate about that. And I was used on the Go Gentle campaign back in 2016, 17, when it was going through Victorian Parliament. And it was invited to Parliament for the opening of the bill through Parliament. And then in November 2017, I'd had a full-blown MS relapse, and I was unable to walk and had to call an ambulance. And I was lying in emergency live streaming Vic Parliament as the bill went through the lower house and was carried and passed. And I was very proud of that moment. I may never use voluntary assisted dying, Aldwyn, but the fact that I have now the choice, that if it comes down to it, that it's there. So that was a big one that I was passionate about, and seeing how much my mum suffered with her disabilities and that as well. So it was a really tough time back then. But I sit back now and I look and go over what happened, and I learned so much through that adversity. And that's the thing. If you can stop and look into your past at the adversity that you've faced and look at what you've learnt from it, then you've gained resilience. And then the next time that an adversity happens, you can draw on what you know from what you've learnt last time.
Yes, well, I can imagine how much resilience you would have needed to come through that, and how difficult that must have been for you. And I'm really curious about what are some of your tips for resilience, on how to have a resilient mindset, which no doubt would lead to then a resilient body as well. Your health, I'd say, would be very closely related to your emotions and what you're thinking, and we do manifest so powerfully what we put out. And as you say, be very careful what you put out, because you may just get it in ways that you may not want to get it in those ways if you're not really specific. So what are some of your tips there on resilience?
So self-care is number one.
Yes.
And self-care comes in lots of different forms. So and it doesn't have to cost much money. It might be just getting enough sleep and eating right. Self-care can come under, I love getting my fingernails done. That to me is self-care. And I love getting my hair done and my eyebrows done. I'm a bit vain. But I feel better when that happens. We're females. How good does it feel when you've had your hair done? Yes. And how much taller and prouder do you look when you've had your hair done than, if you've let it all go. So self-care being the top one. Learning, never stop learning. Keep your brain as active as you possibly can, and that will help ward off dementia. My nana was in her early 90s, and she would still do the daily crossword in the paper every day, and she was switched on. She had no dementia whatsoever. And my grandfather as well, both of them into their 90s, still lived at home, still independent, and was still learning. Never stop that learning. Do an online course, go out and do a course now that we're back out into the world. University of YouTube, if you can't afford to go and do a course. Read Audible book. Download Audible books. Continually learn. I watch TEDx talks. I love listening to other people on their lives. I listen to Audible books when I'm creating art. Learning's a big one. Connecting to the earth. Get back to nature. When was the last time you sat in the park and took your shoes and socks off? Grounding. Grounding's really important. So when you take your shoes and socks off and you just stand on grass, sand, or dirt, not concrete, you will release the energy out of your body and you will earth back, you'll ground back. So if you're someone that's got a lot of pain, a lot of ailments, just go outside and ground. Now, my backyard was a concrete jungle, and I had a 2 meter square little patch in the backyard. I don't have a very big backyard. It's only about the size of a courtyard, and it was all this gravel. And so I had all the gravel on this 2 meter patch dug up, and I had turf laid down, and that's my grounding patch out there. And there's nothing better than, getting back to nature. Go for a walk, in a national park, botanical gardens, go to the beach. Even in winter, go to the beach and walk along the beach. Take your shoes off and let the sand touch your feet and connect back to the earth, and you'll feel so much better for it. Fresh air. When was the last time you actually breathed clear, fresh air? Hobbies. Find a hobby. Very important. Helps fill the day. Again, keeping your mind active. And hobbies don't have to cost much money at all. It might it doesn't have to be that you collect a whole heap of ornaments. You could just like doing jigsaw puzzles, and there's jigsaw puzzle libraries that you can go and swap over, so you don't have to spend much money doing that either. And whatever the hobby is, I mean, my son's got a hobby on racing drones, and he started off just as a hobby doing that, and now it's his 7-figure business that he's turned into. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree there, but
Wow.
whatever your hobby is, or if you haven't got a hobby, and that was really prevalent in COVID, that so many people, when they were stuck at home, their only hobby was watching TV, and realized that they didn't have much to do. And gardening can be a hobby, growing vegetables in tubs can be a hobby. There's so many things that you can do, and we're all different, so we'll all like different things. Movement is really important. So exercising, getting out of that chair and just moving. And we all like different exercises. I personally hate walking, and I never run ever. That's not the exercise that I choose. I choose to go and lift big, heavy things. And I weight train 3 days a week, and I have done so for pretty much the last 21 years. And I always feel better. I can walk into the gym. I go every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 10:30, and I can go into the gym and I feel terrible. I've had a bad night with the MS. I'm aching from head to toe. I've got nerve pain, electricity shooting out of my feet, and I'll still go and do a workout. And when I walk out of that gym, I feel like I'm on top of the world. I feel like I'm Rocky, and I'm on top of the stairs, and I've just run up there. Chances are I have run up walked up a set of stairs at the gym. But movement. So, find something that you like to do. And if you don't want to do it by yourself, find someone to go with you. But don't use it as an excuse if you can't find someone. All right. And, walking is the cheapest form of movement. You just need a pair of runners, and out you go. And it doesn't cost that much to go and do it. But your body will thank you, and your mind will thank you. And it'll make it easier to cope with an adversity that you're facing. Fueling your body. So we are a product of what we eat. Our cells are replaced with the nutrients that we're putting into our body. So make sure that you're fueling your system right. If you're eating high sugar foods and junk foods, your mood will be all over the shop, and you'll be replacing the nutrition in your cells with crap, and you'll feel like crap. Have you ever gone away on a holiday, or you've just eaten junk food for too many meals, and all you start craving for a nice big plate of veggies and a piece of meat? That's your body telling you what you need. And, there's sometimes foods and there's everyday foods, and everyday foods should be meat, fruit, and veg, without all the elaborate stuff that goes with it. We've turned eating into a pastime. We've turned eating into a hobby. We've turned eating into a passion, whereas eating should just be fuel for your body to function, to get through each and every day. And if you're not fueling your body properly, you're not going to be getting the best out of it. So I eat very clean, very few processed foods. I have an 80-20 rule. If I go out, I'll eat something, but I know that I'm going to pay for it the next couple of days on what it does to my body, because I'm that in tune now with everything that I put in. Fueling your mind. Now, this is a big one, and we spoke about this, I think, on my podcast, the Resilience Mindset podcast. So be very careful what you're putting in your mind and what you're allowing in there. And social media can be a big trap. And, if there's things that maybe you've got some people on your socials, and every time you read their posts, it just grits at you and you get all agitated, and it's like, what are they talking about? They don't know what they're on about. There's a little button up the top that just says unfollow. You don't have to unfriend them, you just unfollow it. and you be in control on what you're seeing on your streams. That's the beauty about social media, unfollow.
Yes.
This might, mortify some people. I've not watched the news in 2.5 years. I haven't watched it. If anything major happens, people will talk about it in conversation, and then I can go and have a look into it further. Oh, that's what's happening. Why does the news always have to be negative? I'd rather, watch an inspiring TEDx talk or watch a documentary and fuel my mind in a positive way there. And then, that starts me off each day in a better positive mindset than grumpy and, the whole world's bad. And it's not. It's just that the news only shows 99% of the bad things and only 1% of the good things. They may end a news story, like the news broadcast, on one good story, and then it's followed up with like a current affair, which is all bad stories again. So, fuel your mind with positive things. Read positive books. Watch funny movies. And that will help your mindset as well, especially when you're facing an adversity. Decluttering. Now, you can declutter your mind. You can declutter your house. If you've got stuff that you haven't been through, you're a bit of a hoarder, and you haven't been through in a very, very long time, start decluttering it and simplify everything, because then when you are facing an adversity, it doesn't all seem so overwhelming and you're not being so feel like you're claustrophobic if everything is laid out, if everything's in its own spot. That definitely helps when you're in a major adversity. And the last thing being goals and visions. Have some goals, have some visions of what you want to achieve in the future. I mean, none of us know if we're going to be here tomorrow, but that doesn't stop us from planning and, having those goals, and then break them down, make sure they're smart goals, that they're, small, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely when you pick your goals, and have some short ones, medium term, and then some long term ones as well, and know what your purpose and your why is. And you'll get out of bed each and every day when you know all of that. So that's a bit of a rundown on the 10 top tips of resilience that I've come up with.
Oh, I love that. And I particularly love, I must say, the one about what we feed our mind and what happens in the mainstream media, having worked in the media for over 20 years as a journalist and seeing the media programming going on out there. And of course, the powers that be in this world, I believe, feed people a lot of drama because they want people, I believe, to live in fear so they can control them. I believe this whole plandemic, I call it, I believe it's actually about control, not about health. And I do suggest people do their own research. And thankfully, we are at a time now, where people can do their own research and where we have literally millions of media channels now. And the good news is we have a whole lot of good news channels out there and good news media outlets out there, such as Good News Network, Sunny Skies News, news.com.au has a good news section. And I think more and more people now are wanting more good news. More and more people are saying we don't watch all this negative news because it absolutely does your head in. Like if you keep watching the negative news, you will potentially end up with depression or be suicidal. And what we've seen through COVID, we've seen 4 times the suicide rates now since COVID has happened. So a lot more people are dying of mental health issues than they are of COVID. And I'm not saying that, COVID obviously is out there. There's a lot of people also have died of COVID, and my heart goes out to all the people that have
some of us still have long COVID.
Right. Yes. Some people have long COVID, and, my heart goes out to everyone affected in that way. And while there's certain things out there we cannot control, such as what we're being fed through the mainstream media and, such as.
Well, we can control it, Aldwyn.
We can
just turn it off.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We can't control what they're going to say, but we can control whether we support it. That's right. Whether we watch it. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something really great to get conscious to, because a lot of people just are not conscious to what they watch, and they just, they sort of go on autopilot. And I grew up in a household like that. My dad used to watch the news. In fact, he still does every single night, not just one channel of news. He watches multiple channels of news, goes from one to the next to the next. And, I grew up depressed. I grew up angry with the world. I didn't want to be here for a long time because it was so negative. And There are so many amazing things going on in the world, and let's celebrate more of that. Let's
Mm,
celebrate more of how we can enjoy life. And what I heard a lot in your resilience tips is actually really bringing joy to your own life, really looking after yourself, having that
mm,
self-care and that self-nurturing so that we can then show up better for others, so that we can then give more love to others once we give that love to ourselves, right? Often a lot of people look for happiness on the outside, and it really is an inside job. And sometimes it takes going through some really tough patches before we get whatever we need to get, right? We
mm.
get hit one of three ways, they say, with our lessons in life, our learnings. It's either a feather, a brick, or a Mack truck that will come and hit you, right? And if we
Yeah.
don't get the lesson, we'll just keep attracting the same kinds
Mhm,
of lessons, the same kinds of people, same kinds of experiences until we get whatever it is to get. So in
mm.
saying that, what are some of the biggest learnings that you've had going through those massive challenges you've gone through, Justine, and coming out the other side? And I love all your tips. What are some of the, when you've been in some really dark moments, what are some of the ways that you've pulled yourself out of those dark moments?
Realizing that I don't have to be perfect,
Ah,
that it's not about perfection, that it's just about showing up each and every day and doing your best that you can each and every day.
mm,
And that nothing lasts forever.
true.
Yeah.
So
So
true.
if you're having a bad patch, it won't last forever. But you do have to be proactive in taking ownership of what is happening and putting things in place to change whatever it is.
Yes, yes, I love that. Taking control of your own life and
Yeah.
actually, taking responsibility, 100%
Mm,
responsibility for everything we attract into
mm.
our lives as
And
well. And
if you do keep repeating the same behaviors, maybe you're attracting the wrong people into your life, go and get some counseling. I am a big believer in counseling, and it doesn't have to be, a psychologist or psychiatrist. It can just be, a counselor, or even a coach, a life coach, or a resilience consultant like I am. And there are people trained out there, to help you through breaking bad patterns of behavior.
absolutely seek help. You are not alone. And I know this is
Mm,
one of the biggest fears that people have, is actually that they are alone. I know it's a fear that I've certainly had a lot of my life. And what that can lead to is having certain attachments that aren't healthy and certain addictions that are not healthy, where we look for fulfillment on the outside. It could be binge eating, it could be drinking, it could be smoking, it could be,
drugs.
any number of things,
Mm,
exactly, drugs, that people try to escape their reality because they're not happy in some way with what's going on in their reality. And they, and this is very, very common. And so feeling alone, feeling like we don't belong, feeling
mm,
like we're not good enough, the minute we actually get that's where our actions are coming from, that it's often to covering up these insecurities or these big fears that we have, and not making ourselves wrong about it, because this is the human
mm.
condition, right? The human condition is that we have fears, we have these things that concern us, and we have sometimes limiting behaviors and patterns,
We
and
are
it's
our own worst critic.
yes,
We are the one that we're always hard on ourselves, and you just got to
yes,
lighten up, enjoy life, and seek help if you need it. And like I
yes.
said before, that is not a sign of weakness. That is actually the biggest sign of strength. Knowing that you can't do it by yourself, and you don't have to do it by yourself. That there are
Mm.
trained people out there that can help
There
with
are,
that.
and there are some sharks out there, and there are some amazing people out there too. So if you want to know who the best ones are to work with, then ask a few people. People make decisions based on reviews nowadays, and they put calls out on social media. Do you know
Mm,
a great counselor, or do you know a great so and so? And that's a great way to find some good referrals. So while you're out doing your hunting around for people to support you, a lot of people have been burnt in this area, haven't they? They have trust issues is a whole other thing a lot of people have, because a lot of people have been burnt, unfortunately. However, there are some phenomenal people out there. So really do your due diligence before you seek help, and notice when you're with people. I suggest notice, do you feel uplifted by certain people in your life, or do you feel like your energy gets drained with certain people in your life? And of course, we're going to have our ups and we're going to have our downs. However, the majority of the time, say using the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, where 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts, or maybe 80% of your happiness and fulfillment comes from maybe 20% of the people around you. Who are those people around you who you want to hang out with, who actually lift your energy and you lift their energy, and you inspire each other to greatness, as opposed to continually knocking what's going on in the world. There's a lot of people get together.
We are the sum of the 5 people that we hang around, and that comes under self-care.
Yes.
Have you been out with a girlfriend all day and you've come home and go, oh God, why do I put myself through that all the time? That is an indication that you don't do it again. Call her up on her behavior, call her out on it. If that person's bringing someone down or is negative Nancy all the time, call her out on it. Don't put up with it, because she probably doesn't even realize, or he doesn't realize that that's what they're doing.
Yes.
And, call them out on it. Why are you so negative all the time? Why do you bring everyone else down? What don't you like in your own life? Why do you have to belittle other people?
Yes, and hurt people do hurt people. That's been gold for me. When I heard that hurt people, I stopped taking things personally when people got nasty, and thought, okay, they're hurting, just send them love. Send them love. Doesn't mean you have to hang out with those people.
Go on their way.
Yes.
And again, it's that filter button. It's the unfollow button. And they might even be family as well. It may not just be a friend, and call them out on it. You are the sum of the 5 people that you're associating with. And if you want to better yourself and those people are not bettering themselves, then find a new circle, find a new inner circle. Keep them on the outer circle, but find yourself, a couple of new inner circle people. And there's plenty of ways that you can bring new people into your life.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Now, I'm very curious, Justine, being such a high achiever as you are and achieving everything you do, even with health conditions that you've had, what are some of your daily habits or weekly habits that you do to self-care and self-nurture, and actually to stay really productive with what you do?
I make my bed every single morning. Every single morning I get out of bed and I make my bed. Doesn't then matter what the rest of the day brings. I've accomplished one thing for the day, and that's making my bed. And I walk into the ensuite quite a few times a day, and I look at my bed and I'm like, I like the way that looks. Nothing nicer than a made up bed and lots of pillows. So I do that. I shower every morning. Can't start the day without a shower. I have breakfast. I make sure that it's a good nutritional breakfast. Never skip brekkie. I drink my minimum of 8 glasses of water a day, and they're not little glasses, they're big glasses. I drink between 2 to 3 litres of clear water every single day. I don't have tea or coffee. I'm allergic to it. So anyone that turns around and says, I can't start my day without a cup of coffee, I call bullshit. That's false belief. I haven't had a cup of coffee in 30 years. You can do it. You've just become reliant on it. That's all. It's become an addiction, and break that. I, again, make sure what I'm taking in my mind with what I'm watching on socials. I make sure that, I'm surrounding myself with positive people. I exercise nearly every day. So weight training, like I said, 3 days a week, and then going out and pounding the pavement, walking when I can. Not my biggest pastime, but I know that I feel better by doing it. I control my weight now as well. I tend to watch my portion sizes. We all overeat way too much, and you got to thank a la carte dining for that, because I started making the plates bigger, so we started putting more food on them, and the portion size that we actually need is like so tiny compared to what we actually eat. I make sure I get enough sleep. I'm an 8-hour a night girl. If I don't get my 8 hours, I can't concentrate and function properly the next day. So I also schedule downtime in, believe it or not, and downtime might be that I'm only doing one task. But I do put downtime. If I go out on a Saturday night dancing with my friends, Sunday's a write-off. And it's not because I've got a hangover, it's because I'm in so much pain that I can't do too much. And so I don't put much on a Sunday. It might be a day of, watching TV or catching up on some book work or doing some writing or doing some painting in the studio. So, there's a balance there as well. And I just make sure I have fun. I try and incorporate something fun each and every day into it. So, and have a laugh. I love laughing. I've got a friend that's a laughter coach. And so, laughing is the best medicine. That's, it's an old cliche, but it's true. And I feel it takes far more effort to remain positive than what it does to be negative. And if there's something negative in my life, then I address it straight away and get rid of that negativity and that adversity, and then look at gaining the resilience and moving on. So, if there's something negative in your life, that is the top priority, to try and change it.
Yes, I'd agree with that. I think that's absolutely crucial to have a resilient mindset. It's important to be thinking above the line, as they say, rather than below the line, rather than being a victim of your circumstances. Be a master of your future by controlling
your destiny.
That's right, master of your destiny, and really consider what is it that you are thinking, and how are you thanking every day. Getting into gratitude is also another fantastic thing. Joy, and they say the more fun you have, the more money you make, is a great saying as well. And turning your mess into your message, which is certainly something you've done, Justine. So what are some of your future plans now? What's on the horizon?
Wow. Well, I've got Morpheus Publishing launching in 2 weeks with my first children's book, Same But Different, and that'll be available on all my socials and also websites. So my plan is to launch a series of children's books. So the first one's on equality, and they'll all have a message in them, so they're not just pretty pictures in a book. I'm bringing out my book on resilience. I've got a memoir that's half written, and I've got a podcast book or series of podcast books that are coming out as well. So all the interviews that I've actually conducted via podcast, not everyone likes to listen, but some people like to read, so they're going in a book. I have a goal of buying an investment property in far north Queensland, because my son and his family are up there, and commute between the two. Having 2 children in 2 different states has its challenges, but also gives more opportunity as well. So that's on the horizon. Keynote speaking, now that the world's opened up. So if you're looking for someone for a function to come and talk about resilience, I'm your queen for that one. I'm starting a cleaning business in the next month to help my daughter, and we're Geelong residential cleaners. So that one's starting as well. So that's actually business number 6. So
wow.
So my goal in the future is, to make every business as successful as I possibly can, and help as many people as I possibly can as well, with keynote speaking. And also I've got a course that will be coming out on resilience, as well as the books. And then there's Van Gogh decals, with, creating large decals for caravans and camper vans to help with, again, memory issues for people. So, my purpose in life is to help other people through adversities, gain resilience, and give them hope.
Amazing, Justine. So inspiring. And we have your link tree here. So it's got all your links there. People can check that out, which is linktr ar.ee/Justine Martin Corporation. Right there. Check that one out there, whether you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on LinkedIn right now, or if you're watching on Facebook. And thank you to those who have been watching. We've got Susie here, says great interview. Thank you, Susie. But
Thanks,
someone else
Susie.
here saying great exchange. We can't see who you are. It says LinkedIn user. So thank you, LinkedIn user, whoever you are. Thank you so much for that, and for everyone else who's watched this live or watching the replay. Are there any final words you'd like to share before we wrap up today, Justine?
Just, never give up. Don't ever give up. Just modify.
Yes, I like that. And one thing at a time, right? One thing at a
That's
time.
it.
Just tick those things off, and that will definitely stop the overwhelm, and it will get you in action and doing those small things, getting those small things done. If you are someone who does procrastinate, then you will feel a lot better if you just make your bed in the morning, for example. Great way to start the day and get those little things done. Fantastic,
Great way to
Justine.
end the day too. Nothing like getting into like a freshly made bed.
So true. So true. Great way to start and finish the day. Absolutely. Highly recommend it. So check out Justine. Those who have been watching this, please let us know in the comments, what have you enjoyed about this interview? What have you got out of this for yourself? Maybe some new daily habits that you will take on. Maybe you'll stop watching the mainstream news. That could be a good thing to do for yourself. Watch some more positive news. Watch the good news channels. And for those who want to connect with me, my links are all at linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. I have a free Publicity Secrets Masterclass coming up July 22. You can check out the link there, or at freeprsecrets.com as well. Thank you so much. And remember to subscribe to Media Queen TV if you haven't already. Got over 700, nearly 800 actually amazing interviews and videos on there for more inspiration, more good news. Check it out over there at YouTube. Fantastic, Justine. Thank you so much once again. I know you're running off to another interview now, so love your work. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast as well, which people can see in the next month as well.
Yes,
And
July. Yours is coming out July.
July, yes, fantastic. And where can they find that interview? Where can people see your podcast?
So the podcast can be seen on all major podcast streaming platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. It's also available on Buzzsprout and also on justinemartin.com.au and juzdart.com.au. But if you follow the Linktree handle, then you'll be able to get through to the podcast from there as well.
Fantastic, which is that one right there, linktree/Justine Martin Corporation. You'll find it all there. Thank you so much once again, Justine. It's been an absolute pleasure. What an inspiring story you have. You're phenomenal. I love your work. I love just your amazing attitude to life, and the attitude of gratitude that you have, and how you fully embrace life with creativity, and your children's book coming out soon as well. That's very exciting. And check out Justine's podcast as well. Thank you so much. Any final words before we wrap up today?
Just thanks for having me on here, and go out and follow your dreams.
Beautiful. Thank you, Justine. Go out and follow your dreams. Thanks so much for being with us. As Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And as I say, shine bright and light up all those around you. Thank you so much for joining us here at Media Queen TV. Thank you once again, Justine. And we will see you again soon. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are in the world. And let us know what you're grateful for an extra bonus today. Let us know what you're grateful for and what you got out of this interview. And if you really love it, then share the love. Share the love on social media. We would love that. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.